Hello, welcome to Go Ballistic. The Scottish Suns look ahead to the Premiership football at the weekend. Cristiano Ronaldo has taken his huff out of Hampden and headed away, so we are back to domestic matters. I'm Roger Hanna. With me today, SunSport's Ryan Rowe. In the week when Willie Collum and Gordon Duncan turned up for the VAR review dressed in the same gear, I've had to change out of my cream polo neck. So Ryan, who's going to be the best dressed man at Celtic Park tomorrow as 100% Celtic meet 100% Aberdeen?
I'd love to tip an upset, but the fact we're still talking about one 100% team facing another 100% team and potentially beating them as an upset kind of says it all. Celtic just got some injury news with Carter Vickers back involved again. Mm-hmm. There'll be a mood lift around the place because of that. We might see James Forrest, Greg Taylor in the squad, not too sure. But I think it might have been different if it was up at Pittodrie. I think the fact it's at Celtic Park, and looking back the last 4 Aberdeen Celtic games at Celtic Park, you want to know the scores? 6-0, 5-0, 4-0, 2-0, all in favour of Celtic.
I noticed as well, the last Aberdeen player to even score a goal at Celtic Park was Lewis Ferguson with a penalty kick 3 years ago. They're certainly due a win there. What would it say for Jimmy Taylor and his players, even if they could come away with a point?
I think it says that we're here to stay. Yeah, this is the first big test for Aberdeen. They've had other tests. I mean, even the late win against Ross County, when they were expected to win that game, but to have to dig deep and come up with something late on. You've also got the fact that, Kevin Nisbet was away with both Jack McKenzie and Nicky Devlin. Yeah. What a debut cameo that was. But they'll come back as well for a bit of an uplift, but it's just such a tough task to go to Celtic Park in any case, and the Celtic players that were away will come back. It's back to league action, back to what they're unstoppable at, which is winning games at Celtic Park.
It's a big week as well for Celtic. It's Aberdeen and then it's Atalanta in Bergamo on Wednesday evening. They're not really a team who look further ahead in the game that's right in front of them. The Champions League won't distract them from Aberdeen, will it?
No chance of that happening for me. I think because it is a top of the table clash, we've had the international break, Brendan Rodgers will go with the strongest team available. I don't see any form of rotation. I think we'll see Kyogo over Adamida as well, who's got a good record against Aberdeen. 6 goals against the Dons, and looking there, they've won all but one game where Kyogo's played against Aberdeen, and that was a draw. So, tough task.
Now, assuming there's some variety of drop points, and there are bound to be drop points somewhere tomorrow, Rangers could get closer to either Celtic or Aberdeen if they can win at Kilmarnock on Sunday. It's not been the greatest hunting ground for Rangers in recent seasons. Can they get the victory?
Certainly can. Derek McInnes will pull out all the stops to ensure they don't. Yep. I think we could probably expect a 70+% possession stat in favour of Rangers. We may well see, in terms of saves for Jack Butland, in the 1 or 2 category. Derek McInnes would be overjoyed with a point. And looking at their defensive record, they've shipped so many goals this season, which is something that Derek McInnes and Kilmarnock sides are not, really known for. So I think he'd be happy to walk out with a 0-0. Yeah. But that would push Philippe Clement straight back on the hot seat.
Domestically, since the Old Firm defeat, Rangers, have beaten Dundee, they've beaten Dundee United, they've beaten St Johnstone. They've looked reasonably comfortable in those games, but they now have a sequence of fixtures starting at Kilmarnock. It does look hard. They've got an away midweek game at Pittodrie coming up. They've got the semi-final coming up against Motherwell. Between now and the international break, will we find out a lot about this Rangers squad?
Absolutely. And I think, in a good way or a bad way, the Rangers fans will of course hope that Clement has started to, he's had a transfer window now where if his hands weren't tied behind his back, they were maybe still somewhat in his pockets, but he's been able to bring in some players that he has identified and Niels Coppin identified. We had stories through the week. They did go in for Abdallah Sima. It didn't work out. They also opened up in the pursuit of Jose Cordoba, but we've talked about players who are the good international week. What about John Souttar at Hampden on against Portugal, Shaq
Very well.
Ronaldo.
Yeah, I mean, listen, if you can stop Ronaldo scoring a goal, it's a very good evening. John Southerly has been playing well. We've got a couple of new managers in the Premiership. Neil Critchley in charge of Hearts for the first time against a St Mirren squad, no longer with Sean Rooney in the squad. He's left the club by mutual consent this morning. How important is it for Critchley to get a winning start? Because I think in these first 8 games, Ryan, it includes 2 European games, an Edinburgh derby, and games against Rangers and Celtic. So a home game against St Mirren looks on paper about as good as it's going to get for a while.
Yeah, I mean, we spoke obviously when Naismith was sacked that it was a sort of horror run of 8 games. I mean, I'm sure if Naismith was thinking about, well, if I couldn't stick out those 8 games, this 8 would be really tough. We kind of hate that Neil Critchley has already been labelled the man that analytics threw up. Certainly not the man that the fans threw up. Yeah. And he'll have that held against him. One slight boost he'll have is, as we maybe all expected, but Lawrence Shankland will be back involved this weekend. And you kind of hope or expect that he'll start finding the net on a regular basis soon.
And the young goalie, Craig Gordon, if John Souttar's buoyed by a clean sheet against Cristiano Ronaldo, Craig Gordon will be buoyed as well, and even got a wee tug of his ear by the great man.
Ageless wonder, Craig Gordon. I mean, there was some chat about whether Critchley would bring Zander Clark back into the fold, but I don't see that happening. I mean, Gordon's such a popular player, such a commanding figure. We all know Zander Clark's a great goalkeeper, but I think it's Craig Gordon's jersey to lose. And I think now that he's had the good international break, when's he going to retire? Yeah. When? Yeah. Can't see it soon.
You say the same about me, Ryan.
I know.
See, with Valakari, he's hopefully taking charge of St John's for the first time. More work permit delays, more red tape. He sat in the stand at Ibrox a couple of weeks ago to watch his team for the first time. But hugely important he's in the dugout for a big game against Ross County tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, we're only, 18th of October, but we're talking about potential relegation, 6-pointers and things like that. It really does come to that, though, because if we fast forward 6 months from now, if either of those two teams has dropped points against the teams in and around them, that's where the difference is going to be. St Johnstone as well, the start under Craig Levein, we always thought that, Craig Levein was maybe seen as a safe pair of hands, but they really seemed to have no identity in how they played other than they were not going to go out and score very many goals, but there was a lot of sort of disjointed play around them. And hopefully with Valaraki coming in, we heard lots of names mentioned with the post. Not sure, again, because he's so unknown to the fans, it's kind of hard to come up with an opinion, but he'll certainly have his own style of play, and that's one thing that they didn't have before, if he can implement that.
Great. Listen, we're looking forward to getting the Premiership back. Thanks, Time. Well, we can head off to SunSport's bookie basher, Jim Delahunt. Jim, we're back to league action this weekend. There only is one place to start. Celtic Park, the clash of the top 2. Is there any movement for Aberdeen, do you think, tomorrow?
Well, they're an astonishingly big price, Roger, but I think most people looking at the game, despite Aberdeen's magnificent record under Jimmy Tellin, will be saying that Celtic are rightly 1-4 favourites. And that's the best odds that you will get on a Celtic home win at Celtic Park this weekend. Now, Aberdeen 11-1. Now, that's a huge price given their record this season, but it is very difficult to see past Celtic despite that horrendous Champions League result that they had. I don't think they're 1-4 chances. I think they're probably 1-2 chances. I would say that Aberdeen are probably 6 or 7-1 chances. But on this occasion, I'm going to go with Celtic. I think it might be difficult to break down that Aberdeen defence. It'll be interesting to see Jimmy's tactics in this one, especially the first 10-15 minutes. Although, of course, Roger, we can't see it on television this weekend. We'll need to wait for highlights. Yep. But Celtic Aberdeen, I think Celtic could find it hard to break them down. That might bring Callum McGregor into the anytime goal scoring equation. He's done that 3 or 4 times already this season, as we all know. And he's 7-2, 100-30 to get a goal at any time on Saturday. That might just be the way I'm going, thinking that Celtic will probably win the game.
One of the interesting markets at the start of the season, Jim, is always, a Premiership without Celtic and Rangers. I think Hearts would be big favourites to win without the big 2 this season. I take it Aberdeen have taken over that mantle the way they've started.
Yeah, absolutely. I think everybody thinks that the very worst Aberdeen are going to finish third, but I think if you talk to people up in the Granite City, they'll be thinking second, and the even more optimistic ones will think they can win it. But I think Aberdeen certainly are going to be the third best team in Scotland this season, unless they can overtake Rangers, of course. And I'll come to them in a minute because they've got a very tough game this weekend. But Hearts, I think they're at home to St Mirren tomorrow. So can they get their first game of the first win of the season, Roger?
Well, listen, there are so many big games at the weekend. You touched on Rangers there. They head down to Rugby Park on Sunday. They lost at Rugby Park the opening day of last season. Are they big favourites to win Sunday lunchtime?
Surprisingly not. They're 1-2, which in terms of Rangers domestic games is quite a long price. But I think, Roger, there's 2 or 3 times a season when you can take one of the old firm on, Celtic or Rangers, and I think this might be one of them on Sunday. Kilmarnock, they got that first win with that tremendous comeback against Dundee, but let's remember they were playing very well before that. I think they'd drawn their last 4 games before that. So they weren't losing matches. Robbie McCrory, of course, featured in SunSport this week, and he's up against his old club. He's had a really good start at Kilmarnock. I think Kilmarnock have got a decent chance here, and they're not a ridiculously high price either. They're only 5-1 on home turf. I think that's not a bad bet at all. Kilmarnock might just be good enough to get the better of Rangers. As I say, now and again in this season of ups and downs, Roger, you have to take a wee chance, and I think taking a wee chance with Kilmarnock at 5-1 isn't the worst idea this weekend.
You touched on Hearts there, Jim. Neil Critchley's dugout debut at Tynecastle at home to St Mirren. He's got a difficult run of fixtures coming up. Does he need to win this one?
He really does need to get a victory soon, but of course he's got this one, Roger, then he's got the European tie, then he's got Hibs at Tynecastle next weekend. So which one of those 3, or is he going to win all 3? That's the interesting question. Much as I followed his career down south, I don't know too much about how he's going to approach this Hearts job. I think we'll find out a lot in this match against St Mirren. That's why it's a difficult one to call, I feel. I think St Mirren are probably good enough to go there and get something from the game, even though, as we know, Craig Gordon was in absolutely magnificent form for Scotland over the past couple of matches. He'll probably be backed by many people, especially Hearts fans, to keep St Mirren out. I think this one could be a share of the points, so I'm going to go for the draw, which I think is remarkably good price at 11-4.
I'm up at Tannadice tomorrow. I know it's a game that you fancy, Jim, the D United against Hibernian. If you take out that home defeat to Rangers a couple of weeks ago for Dundee United, they've not lost at home since February. Yeah. They've not lost to Hibs in 3 years. Hibs, I think, have had 1 win in 8. Are you looking at that as a home win for Jim Goodwin's men?
You've obviously had a sneak peek at my copy for the column, Roger, because I'm going to put Dundee United in the top 5 this weekend. I really fancy them to get a home win against Hibs. Hibs have been stop-start. I've not been convinced by them at all. Dundee United I've seen play a couple of times. I've been very impressed with them. They look like a team set up to win matches 1-0, but they actually win matches sometimes by better results than that. You mentioned the Rangers game. I thought they played particularly well in that match, despite the fact that they lost. I think it's a great opportunity for Dundee United to put 3 points on the board in front of a massive crowd, which will be boosted by several thousand travelling Hibs fans. I'm sure you'll enjoy the atmosphere there, Roger. We've been at some great games at Tannadice over the years, and I think 11-8, 7-5, 13-10, Dundee United at home. That's a good bet this weekend. That's the one I'm going for in the top 5.
What about St Johnstone at home? Simo Valakari, listen, we're recording this on Friday morning, may or may not be in the dugout. He's still awaiting a work permit. We haven't heard yet. He'll be in McDermott Park somewhere. How important is it for him to get a winning start against Ross County?
I think it is important for him. Whether he gets it or not is a completely different story, Roger. Ross County have been impressive in their last few matches. So unlucky not to take something against Celtic just a couple of weeks ago. They haven't won an away match this season, but they might just be set up to win this one. I think with St Johnstone, still doubts about St Johnstone with a new manager coming in, and we still don't quite know how that's going to pan out. I think Ross County away from home might be worth taking a little chance on at 7-4. So Ross County away 7-4. That's not bad at all in my book. I'm going to go with that.
Now, you're a man who knows all about form horses, Jim. If you look at the last Premiership game in the card, Motherwell against Dundee, Motherwell flying, especially at home under Stuart Kettlewell. Dundee can't really buy a win. They haven't won a game since Luke McCowan went to Celtic just as the transfer window closed. I take it as a home banker for the Steelmen.
Well, it looks like it, but they are odds against, and I think that's going to interest a lot of punters, including me. Dundee have had a tremendous start to the season, but just faltered recently, Roger. I think Motherwell are in great order. They always seem to fly under the radar, Motherwell, and pop up with some tremendous results. They're at home tomorrow. They're 21-20. I know a couple of firms have just gone slight odds on this morning, so maybe some tipping channel has been passing on words for Motherwell. But I think you'll still get slight odds against Motherwell. I'll go for them to beat Dundee at home at Fir Park. The fans right behind them.
Jim, as ever, that's great. Thank you very much for your time. I'll keep you posted on that United Hibs game tomorrow from Tannadice.
Thank you, Roger.
Well, thanks very much again for watching Go Ballistic. We'll be back on Monday with Chris Boyd looking back on the weekend's Premiership action. Don't forget, we'll be back on Wednesday as well with the Coffee Club, myself and Bill Leckie, looking ahead to European games for Celtic, Rangers and Hearts. And of course, don't forget to watch Derek McGregor's terrific one-on-one series. Interviews with SPFL managers. John McGlynn at Falkirk this week. Absolutely a terrific interview. You can watch them all on the SunSport YouTube channel. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks very much.